Coming up on Tech News Today, patent wars heat up, why your hotel keycard is so hackable, and why YouTube wants to know your real name. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, July 24th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter the promo code TNT. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or Android smartphones from your home or office. Find out what your gadget is worth at gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
We are going to keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world and put them in context for you. We start with the top 10 stories of the day in the news fuse. Samsung won and lost in Germany's Dusseldorf Higher Regional Court on Tuesday. Good news for Samsung. The court denied Apple's request to ban sales of the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1N, which was specifically tweaked to avoid patent infringements. The bad news, the court upheld the ban against the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.7 tablet and expanded that ban to cover the entire European Union. The big battle comes July 30th when the U.S. case between the two top smartphone makers kicks off for reals.
100-watt USB cables powering laptops and hard drives? That's just crazy. Or is it? The USB 3.0 Promoter Group has announced a new USB-powered delivery specification with support from companies like Microsoft, Intel, and HP. The specification works by relying on certified cables for full 100-watt performance.
Siemens has issued security updates to its SCADA control software products Simatic, WinCC, and Simatic Step 7. SCADA software is used to control things like factories and water utilities.
And nuclear plants.
That kind of stuff. Previously, WinCC and Step 7 had bugs identical to those exploited to infect machines with Stuxnet. The patch takes care of those bugs.
KGI securities analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has a reputation for predicting accurately what Apple is going to do. Mac Rumors reports Kuo's new research note says a new iPod Nano is coming, as well as an all-new iPod Touch with a taller design and in-cell screen technology. Kuo also supports the iPad Mini rumors, saying a smaller iPad will launch late in September. He also predicts a 13-inch Retina MacBook Pro will arrive this autumn.
It's kind of like a meteorologist saying, like, it might rain, it will rain, and it's not going to rain.
75% chance of iPad.
It's going to cover my bases. The European Commission announced that it's informed 13 companies supplying optical disk drives that it suspects them of participating in a worldwide cartel. The Commission accuses the yet unnamed companies of rigging bids over a 5-year period and coordinating, quote, their behavior in bidding events organized by 2 major original equipment manufacturers for optical disk drives used in personal computers, desktops, and notebooks, and in servers. This formalizes the antitrust process and begins a full-on investigation.
Well, the weather is getting warmer out there. It can only mean one thing. Earnings season.
Hey.
AT&T reported a profit of $3.9 billion, up from a profit of $3.6 billion last year at the same time. Customer growth is not so spectacular. The company gained 320,000 net new subscribers, down from 331,000 last year. AT&T customers seem to love their smartphones, though. The company sold 5.1 million smartphones, which made up 77% of postpaid sales. Oh, yeah, and 3.7 million of those smartphones were Apple iPhones.
PC World reports the cloud storage service Box has a new application for Windows Phone that takes advantage of live tiles and benefits from Microsoft Office's phone integration. Box also will partner with Qualcomm to get manufacturers who use Snapdragon processors to preload the Box application on Android devices.
You know who Dell loves? Dell loves Linux. The company is expanding its new
I was going to
precision...
say money, sorry.
Well, I think that's...
I was going to say Texas.
Not a who.
Dell would love them to go hand in hand, actually,
Yeah.
with its precision mobile workstations. With Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6 OS as an option. So we've got the Precision M4700, which has a 15.6-inch screen, or the Precision M6700, which has a 17.3-inch screen, pretty big. Dell will offer Windows 7, but is also offering Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6 for specific regions, although the company hasn't said which countries will be available yet.
There's a glut of flash memory out there, and Toshiba's fighting back. Toshiba is going to cut production of NAND flash memory by 30% at its Mie Prefecture plant in Japan. While plummeting memory prices have been great for consumers, demand has not kept up with supply. The cut in production, combined with an expected ramp-up in smartphone production as we head into autumn, is hoped to bring some stability to the flash market.
VMware announced its quarterly numbers and said its services revenue stream was higher than its software sales. Services revenue was up 32.7% compared to last year at the same time. The company also announced it was picking up a startup company called Nicira, which makes software that provides virtualization of networks.
All right, we're going to get into the stories a little deeper in a second, but want to thank our sponsor for today's show, ShareFile.com by Citrix. Businesses rely on the exchange of information between your colleagues and your clients, but you need that stuff to be secure. I'm doing this right now. With my own business. I'm talking to my tax attorney, and I can't just attach files. First of all, a lot of them are too big. And second of all, I'm not just going to throw them up on some drop service somewhere just because it might not be secure. ShareFile is what I use. It ensures files of almost any size go through successfully without any bounce backs, keeps your files safe, secure, and under your control. And it's easy. You send files by just clicking the Send a File link and entering the email address. It's flexible, access your files from anywhere, laptop, tablet, smartphone, and it's built for professionals. Plus, their customer support team members are always available. You don't get that with all the other services. You also get to know when people opened it, who opened it, all of that kind of stuff. So go try it out with this special free offer. Sign up today, receive a 30-day free trial. Go to sharefile.com, click on the radio microphone, and enter the promo code TNT. Remember, visit sharefile.com. Type in that promo code TNT. Use that same secure file service that we use here at TWiT. All right, joining us today to talk about the stories of the day, Dana Wollman. Welcome to the show, Senior Reviews Editor at Engadget. Good to have you back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We got some good stuff to talk about, but first, let's start with patent wars. The Dusseldorf Higher Regional Court in Germany on Tuesday upheld a preliminary injunction preventing sale of the Galaxy Tab 7.7, as we mentioned in the news views. Here's what's going on. The Higher Court of England and Wales ruled earlier this month that Samsung didn't have as cool of a design. Remember that? And the 7.7-inch tablet had not copied iPad's aesthetic. Apple is targeting 5 Samsung tablets and, in separate legal action, 10 Samsung smartphones for patent infringements in Germany. Now, what they got today was a preliminary injunction saying that they can't sell these while the trial is going on. There's still the trial in the higher regional court. Also, the German lower court trial isn't even final yet. All of this can be appealed, so that's far from over. The court also denied Apple's request to ban sales of the Galaxy Tab 10.1N. That's the one that Samsung modified to get around the patent problems. Foss Patents speculates the win for the 10.1N could guide Samsung to alter the other devices to avoid infringement, which bears on the real battle coming next week. July 30th, Samsung and Apple begin their knockdown, drag-out trial here in the United States. Apple, in their filing, has said they want Samsung to pay at least $2.5 billion to settle this thing. And this is in the filing. They're saying they owe us this in royalties. This U.S. version of the patent wars is over design and tech, but mostly design. The tech stuff is scrolling API, the overscroll bounce tap, zoom and navigate. Those are all examples of the tech, but they also claim a bunch of design. I think there's $24 per device that they want for design infringements. And here's the kicker. Check this out. Apple says in their filing, Samsung's infringing sales have enabled Samsung to overtake Apple as the largest manufacturer of smartphones in the world. Samsung has reaped billions of dollars in profits and caused Apple to lose hundreds of millions of dollars through its violation of Apple's intellectual property. So if you were thinking, oh, you know, the patent wars probably are settling down, they're fading away, not happening. This is one of more than 50 lawsuits around the globe. Even in California, there's a second case pending that is currently scheduled to go to trial in 2014. So we're not resolving anything at this point.
And I love how specifically Apple says, listen, Samsung is the largest manufacturer of smartphones in the world because of how they've screwed over Apple. They shouldn't be. They don't deserve to be. It's because of our technology.
Well, and if they win the case, then that's what the law says, right?
Well, I don't know about that. What the opinion of the court will be, but there's so many different cases. It's kind of hard to see what exactly the resolution is going to be because there's so many different aspects being argued in so many different courts around the world. You can have inconsistent results because you can have a device that's like the 10.1N. You can have a mini version of it, and maybe that will still infringe based on certain, just based on the court's opinion. So it can go any which way. I guess the idea that patent wars were slowing down, I didn't think that was even true, because this is the monstrous battle that's continuing. This is the ongoing Samsung-Apple fight, because Samsung is the main competitor at this point for Apple. They have a successful phone. They sold 10 million of the Galaxy S3s. I mean, they're doing a great job and actually having a legit competitor to something like the iPhone. And if this squabble continues, I mean, it just seems like, to me, it's just business posturing again and again. Samsung obviously makes tons of equipment for Apple. It just seems like at the end of the day, Samsung and Apple will finish their little squabble. Apple will get their displays.
But every judge has been saying that. Finish your squabble. This isn't necessary. Settle out of court. And they refuse.
It might take a couple years.
They just keep pushing it.
It's a war, Tom. It's not a battle. It's a war. It's going to take a long time. Maybe the 100 years war.
Dana, do you think the war is worth it? Or you know, I mean, because the judges themselves are expressing exasperation. They're saying crazy stuff. They're saying this is silly. Your designs aren't cool. We're tired of this. Those are all quotes from different judges.
Well, it wasn't that your designs aren't cool. Just they can't be mistaken for the cooler
he said
iPad.
Your design is not as cool.
Oh, I'm just
in his.
He didn't say you have a crappy design, Samsung. Get out of here.
He implied it for sure.
It actually ended up ruling in Samsung's favor because
exactly.
of that. So
I know.
not being cool is the new cool, I guess.
But I guess what I'm getting at is the judges even are appearing tired of this. They're telling the companies to settle, and the companies just won't settle. Dana, do you think this is worth it, all of the cost and effort?
I think the stakes are too high at this point. I mean, I think we had all hoped, I mean, those of us who want choice and, you know, we want this proliferation of devices, I think we had hoped there'd be some sort of mutually assured destruction where if enough companies had big enough portfolios of patents that maybe that would deter certain companies from picking fights. But I think at this point, if Apple's asking for $2.5 billion in damages, the stakes are extremely high. And actually, I keep being reminded of the case between Dish and TiVo. That went on, I think, for 7+ years. That too was about patent infringement. There were huge billions of dollars in royalties that one company was claiming. At this point, I don't see it simmering down abruptly or quietly. As much as I would like for it to, as a tech journalist sick of writing about this stuff and reading about this stuff, I don't see it going away quietly.
I mean, if this war gets expensive enough, I would think the R&D cost to work around the patents and maybe change the design might be cheaper at some point. If
Right?
Samsung's like, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do that the touch of color thing we do with our televisions, with our tablets. They will all be red, and one side will be squared, and there's no way on earth you could possibly confuse the two. Then we're going to switch operating systems entirely, like do all these crazy things. At some point, it's cheaper than fighting all of this stuff in court.
But when you're talking about, I mean, arguably the two most powerful companies in, for the purposes of this conversation, the mobile space, it's like neither one of them wants to back down. I mean, Samsung is powerful. They can take Apple, and they clearly want to in court.
That's the thing. I look at this and I think what Iyaz said is absolutely true. Over scroll bounce. So you change it to over scroll glide. You've designed around it.
Done.
You're done.
What's over scroll bounce?
That's when you scroll down and it does the little bounce back to show like, oh, you've reached the end.
Got it.
You just do something else. That stuff's easy. Round some corners where
There
they
are a
say
lot of
they're
things
square.
that Android does slightly differently that Apple doesn't have a problem with, but it works the same way.
Totally. So I think you're right, Sarah, is that this is all about egos. This is about Samsung saying, nope, we're going to win. We're going to win this. And Apple saying, nope, we're going to win this. And it's not about what it should be, which is...
Let's have 50 concurrent lawsuits worldwide.
And Apple's saying, you owe us $24 per device for your design, but we're only going to pay you a half a penny per device for the 3G patent that you're counterclaiming against us. Now, maybe that 3G counterclaim patent is worth quite a bit less, but the gap across this is ridiculous. I mean, they don't even seem to want to settle this. They want to win. They want to crush the other person.
Well, I mean, I think that's because of the court filings.
Yeah, and that may be it.
It's really easy to grab, you know, a really interesting thing that a judge said or what a lawyer wrote in a brief, because what else are you going to put? Like, we stipulate to these facts. I mean, that's in a lot of these briefs, but nobody ever puts that as the headline because that's really dull.
Yeah, and they want to overshoot. Yeah. You don't want to under ask in court, right? I mean, that's you can only scale down. You can't scale up.
Ask for more than you can possibly get.
All right. Well, that's coming up in 6 days, folks. Stay tuned to your favorite patent blog if you're interested. Meanwhile, we got some new numbers on the iPhone.
Yeah, well, Apple's saying that they're not selling iPhones because Samsung's ripping them off, but it doesn't seem to really stop iPhone sales at AT&T. As a part of the AT&T earnings, there was a note that the iPhone 4S made up 3.7 million of the 5.1 million smartphone activations for the quarter. And Verizon also revealed last week that it sold 2.7 million iPhones, and that was sold, not activated. And smartphones are 77% of postpaid device sales for AT&T. So why does the iPhone continue to be the major factor in the smartphone market when there's way more competition? Even on AT&T alone, they have the Lumia 900. They have a Samsung Galaxy S2. They have a whole bunch of devices out there that they are pushing. I mean, maybe not the Lumia, but they do have another set of devices that they are.
But Apple said in their court filing that Samsung is killing them.
Well, apparently they could be selling a lot more. Maybe they should be more than 3.7 million. But why is this phone, even though it's available everywhere, why is this the one thing that people are still going after?
Well, especially since everyone is expecting the next generation iPhone, whether it's called the iPhone 5 or something else, in just a couple of months now. I mean, we're getting to the point where iPhone sales should be slowing as long as people don't want to be wasting money on something that's about to be not obsolete, but not the latest and greatest.
Dana, do you have any thoughts on why it makes up such a percentage of AT&T? It's less than half of Verizon, but still a big percentage.
Why on AT&T specifically?
Well, just why in general, like the iPhone is making up such a huge percentage of the U.S. carriers?
I think for so many people, it's such a safe choice. I think it's become almost synonymous with smartphone, the way Kleenex is for tissues. Not quite the way BlackBerry used to equal smartphone, but I think for a lot of people, it's the safe, obvious choice. And I sort of am puzzled the way Sarah is, just because I agree that anyone who's even a little bit informed should know that, or should have heard the rumors that a new iPhone is coming fairly soon. But I guess that speaks to how many people don't really need the latest speeds and feeds to feel like they have a great phone. That's sort of humbling for people like me who review these sorts of things, but I guess there are a lot of people out there who don't necessarily feel like they need the latest chip to feel satisfied.
I'm just wondering, is it just because of Apple's marketing? I mean, they are putting a big push on it, and they probably have tight control over what exactly the ads show. I mean, Samsung has its set of ads, but they don't get a ton of carrier support in their advertisements. But every other manufacturer
Apple doesn't just have some tight control; they have total control.
And they have their own series of ads independent of the carriers. I wonder, like, are these Siri ads really working for people? I mean, what exactly makes this phone, which is kind of outdated at this point, even just worthwhile? When there are devices that
why do you say it's outdated? It's only because it's a year old?
It's a year old, and devices, yeah,
almost a year old.
Spec-wise, it does seem like a little bit behind.
3.5-inch screen.
And it's still waiting for the next version of the operating system. There's a whole bunch of things that if you're paying attention, like Dana was saying, you know that it's on its way out, and it just seems a little strange.
But also what Dana was saying was it's the sort of thing where word of mouth, when the 4S came out, it was like, this is the camera to beat. This has an awesome camera. And people will hold on to stuff like that because it's like, I want to take pictures of my family. Does it have quad core? I don't know. I don't care. Is that going to matter? Probably not. But there are certain features of the phone that I think, even though there is stiff competition, it's hard for people to... People can't be paying as much attention
to all the different ones.
Unless you work on a tech news show and it's your job. Right. But for the most part, most of the people who are buying these Apple products aren't paying attention to that stuff. So I think there are certain things that stick to them.
Yeah, and I think Dana was saying that too. It gets momentum. Right. And people think, oh, well, that's the one. So I don't want to spend a lot of time deciding it. That's apparently the best one. I'm going to go with that. That doesn't explain why the enterprise market is getting more attention for iOS.
Or does it?
Or does it?
Or does it? Yeah, there's actually some new research. It was a survey actually conducted by AppCelerator in conjunction with IDC Research. AppCelerator is a platform development company, and they surveyed, they have a community of 340,000 developers. They ended up surveying about 3,600 of those for this survey. The results are interesting. For the enterprise market, 53% of developers said they would choose iOS. 38% would choose Android. Now you say, okay, well, iOS is dominant, except that last year in a Q2 survey, same question, the developers chose pretty much equally, saying both Android and iOS were interested in going for the enterprise market, both at about 44%. So for a variety of reasons, Apple seems to have overtaken Android, at least in the way that developers feel going forward. Now, some developers say it's really just market size. Apple's got market size, but also the price point of Apple's devices is higher. Apple has a pretty strong relationship with mobile device management technology companies. Then they're also really good at that marketing. I mean, you go to apple.com/iPhone/business, and Apple wants to make it really clear how great their products are for people in the enterprise sector. Now, we obviously looked at that Google Nexus 7 commercial yesterday, and all kidding aside, it's like that was definitely Google's foray into that Apple, we're friendly to consumers, this is not just a geek device type thing, but that's pretty new. I mean, we all looked at the commercial like, it's kind of new for Google to be doing stuff like this. So this is something that Apple really has a stronghold on as far as marketing, and it seems to be working. What's also interesting, though, is if you put iOS and Android aside for a second, Windows 8 got 33% of developers who were interested in building apps for Windows 8. That's not really that far under Android. And you might say, really? But with their market share, that seems a little bit strange. But I think that Microsoft seems to be making ground in convincing the enterprise market that we've got phones, we've got tablets, they're already using our computers. This is actually a really good thing for synergy between devices.
I think Apple's benefiting from the trend of bring your own. So a lot of people have an iPhone because of all the stuff we were just talking about in that previous story. It's the one to get. It's perceived as easy, and it's a good phone. And so they buy the phone, and then they say, hey, I want to use this for my business. And it puts some pressure as enterprise starts to say, okay, we're not going to force everyone to get a BlackBerry on T-Mobile, which also I think we don't pay enough attention to why that may be hurting RIM as well. But I think what Microsoft has latched onto is, hey, we may not be as popular with the consumers as the iPhone by any stretch, but we have a phone that appeals to that same mindset that you can push back with and say, that's great. We know you want like a fancy touchscreen phone. Check out Windows Phone, and then you get the benefit of the Microsoft integration into your enterprise. And that's a good selling point for Microsoft, pushing back from the enterprise side.
Right.
Whereas the iPhone is pushing from the consumer side, saying, hey, your employees love our phone. Let them use it on your network.
Well, we talked in the news views, too, that Box recently released the Windows Phone app today, actually. It's today's news, which is great integration with Microsoft Office. So you can take files from a Box account and then open and edit them in Office programs. That's just the sort of thing where the more apps you have for Windows Phone, the more people go, yeah, I could do everything I want on this phone. And this is actually an operating system that works for me, so I don't feel like I'm left out.
Yeah, Dana, do you have any thoughts? I know you spend your time reviewing more of the desktop hardware, but that should give you some insight into how this stuff integrates with the hardware and why enterprise people might be saying, oh, well, you know what, we'll go with iPhone. We'll develop for iPhone.
Right. I'm not at all surprised that about that figure about iOS. I do think the metrics themselves in that survey are a little bit silly. I think it's kind of like asking developers that question. It's kind of like asking voters which presidential candidate they think is going to handle healthcare better. You're going to get a different answer every week or every month. And I think that's true here. But that said, I can understand, as Sarah was saying, why iOS is taking the lead. I think it's pretty standard now, actually, to see iPhones and even iPads being deployed. Android devices, not so much. And what's interesting to me is that Android has had such a head start over Windows 8. It really wasn't that long ago that Windows 8 was publicly revealed, and it's not even here. It hasn't even arrived as a finished product. So the fact that it already has support of 33% of developers is really interesting because Microsoft hasn't had a lot of time to sell the platform. It's not even a finished platform yet. And I think, like you guys have been saying, they have the benefit of already having such a strong foothold in the enterprise market that I expect that number to grow, and it could well match Apple there. I don't know what's going to happen to Android just because they've had so much time to prove the platform in that market.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Gazelle. If you want to get some of these new devices that are coming down the pike, we keep talking about more and more things that are going to be released, not just phones, but Windows 8. All the Microsoft Surface tablets going to be coming in the fall. You want to get some cash together and you can get some cash together in a very simple way by using Gazelle.com. How do you pay for the upgrade? Go to Gazelle, get a risk-free quote on whatever gadget you have. It's simple and fast. GAZELLE.com. See what your gadget's worth, and then lock that quote in for 30 days, risk-free. Just put in the specs. Be honest about what condition it's in, what accessories you've got for it. Then print out your shipping label. Sometimes they'll even give you a box if you want, and then send it off. You get paid in cash. Payment's fast. You get it within a few days of the item being received by Gazelle, and you get paid by PayPal or check or Amazon gift card, which gives you a 5% bonus. Your offers are good for 30 days, though, so don't wait. Go put in that gadget right now and see what it's worth, and then you can think about it if you want, but don't waste time, because the longer you wait, the less valuable the gadgets get. What's your gadget worth? Go find out right now. Sooner you do, the more money your gadgets will be worth. Sell your used iPhones, iPads, Macs, and other smartphones today at Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Okay, YouTube wants to know my name. Why do they want to know my name?
Oh, it's a big question. Why would they possibly want on YouTube to have, I don't know, accountability for somebody? Right now, if you try to upload a video on YouTube, you'll be greeted with a box that says, start using your full name on YouTube. And then there's a little icon saying how you appear now and how you'll appear after. You can opt out of this, but if you just keep clicking next, 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 and you're not paying attention, you will have your real name there that's associated with your Google Plus account. If you say no, if you don't want to, it'll ask you, are you sure? It'll give you 6 options.
Pushy.
Yeah, still not interested? Tell us why before leaving. It includes options like my channel is for a show or character. My channel name is well known for other reasons, and there are other options for you. Or I'm not sure, I'll decide later. So apparently they want to know exactly why.
So they're not forcing you to change the name.
Which is what Google Plus did initially, which
Right.
upset some folks.
They're just really, really insistent that maybe you want to do this.
So lots of people are making the jump. The theory is to stop this. You know the quality of YouTube commenters that
It's the best in the world.
best in the world.
It's
It's
the
something.
benchmark.
Right.
Well, now that Dig has relinquished the title.
I don't know. Have you read YouTube comments lately?
No,
They're pretty bad.
That's what I'm saying. Now that,
Right.
Dig commenters have faded into the background.
Sure.
YouTube has taken up the
Dana, do
mantle.
you think this change is going to get people to have, again, more, I guess, a respectful discourse on YouTube?
I think this is a really complacent move on Google's part. I mean, it's interesting to me what their motivation is, that it's not to create a decent environment so much as, assuage advertisers who don't want their ads next to such crude language. But I think people have such privacy concerns surrounding Google and similar sites and similar services that I don't think that many people are willingly going to give their names, and I don't think that's going to encourage anyone not to be a jerk online. And what kind of is interesting to me, I guess I have strong opinions about this because we have some terrible commenters on Engadget, not as bad as on YouTube, but we moderate the comments, and we're a smaller outfit than Google, and I just wonder why there isn't more moderation of the comments, whether they use artificial intelligence to weed out certain words, or whether they don't have a staff of people the way maybe the Huffington Post does. I'm just not sure why they're leaving it up to the nasty commenters themselves to be accountable if they've already shown that they can't.
I think in many cases, they rely on the community to flag comments that are inappropriate or contain certain things that are against YouTube's policies. But yeah, most of the time, it's just like, well, that was a jerk comment. It's not necessarily a spam comment or something that someone isn't allowed to say. It's just taking the conversation in a negative turn. I feel that many, and I know Engadget isn't doing this, but many of the particular tech blogs that I read regularly that switched over to Facebook comments, I mean, it doesn't mean that there's not lively debate, but it's definitely cut down on a lot of the just nastiness, because it's anonymous nastiness, because it's associated with people's actual accounts on Facebook. And it doesn't really seem to cut down on the conversation itself. It just brings people out of the woodwork who actually have something interesting to say and don't mind you saying, okay, and you work at this company, and I could click onto your Facebook profile, which is a real person, and see pictures of you. It just adds a little bit of accountability. But yeah, I mean, based on the fact that people can get around this, it's not going to make trolls go away on YouTube.
I think, Dana, like, you get a great point about the idea. This is really for advertisers. I mean, YouTube, to me, I was just thinking about this. It reminds me of like Times Square in the 70s. Like, it was this kind of like, okay, it's kind of not the best place, and things started slowly changing, and mayors started making it cleaner and cleaner, and now it's like, hey, we want to attract Disney here. We want to attract major money here. Let's try to make some steps to make it look cleaner. And I think that's what's going on with YouTube here. If you have real names, maybe some people who aren't paying attention start seeing their names show up. And the people who want to be trolls will continue to be trolls. They will have fake names on Google+, but they can attract more money to make YouTube a more legitimate tourist destination, I guess, on the web.
So they're picking up the trolls and like carting them off to other areas of the city where they're not as
To
visible.
the outskirts. That's right. They're all going to Rochester.
Yeah. I'm a little more positive about this than you guys. I think what Google tries to do is provide systemic tools. They don't provide a staff of moderators. They expect channel operators to moderate themselves. And when channel operators take a hand in it, it does work. It improves the quality of YouTube comments tremendously. But a lot of channel operators don't have the time or the inclination to do so. So I think what Google's saying is, we're an engineering company. We're going to come up with an engineering solution. One thing we've seen is that when you require a real name, that helps. We also know our audience well enough to say if we make everybody do a real name, it's not going to work very well. So I think the Times Square metaphor is apt. They're sort of, gently trying to push people out and say, like, wouldn't you rather use your real name? I don't know how well it's going to work, because in the end, I come back to agreeing with you, Dana. Moderation is the thing that works the best. And so if you want the real solid benefit of the real name effect that Sarah was talking about, you need to make it mandatory, because too many people are going to just say, well, I want to be a troll, so I'm not going to do this. And if they're not going to make it mandatory, then they either need to do a lot more outreach to channel operators and say, here's how to moderate your comments, or possibly, Brian Brushwood suggested this yesterday on Frame Rate, give the opportunity to the channel operator to say, only allow comments from people who have agreed to put in their real name. And that way, it doesn't force anyone to do it, but it gives the moderators another tool in their tool belt.
Yeah, you're controlling your own channel's conversation.
Yeah. All right. I am never staying in a hotel room again after reading about this next story.
Yeah, so this is really interesting for anybody who's used to the little
The locks.
I guess you call them key cards.
Yeah, key cards. Yeah, I think that's right.
The modern key cards in hotels. These are just those little plastic things that you program to
that you don't
be
put by
able
your phone or they get wiped out.
Right, yeah.
Get locked out of your
Took
room.
me a while to figure that out. You can't put it on top of your iPad or it won't work anymore, and then you're going to be locked in the hallway. Mozilla software developer and security researcher, guy by the name of Cody Brocious, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is going to present hotel room lock vulnerabilities from the manufacturer Onity. Now, Onity is a huge company that has about 4 to 5 million hotel room locks on doors around the world. So they're a very big manufacturer of these. He says with a $50 open source hardware gadget that he built, you basically insert a plug into the DC port, which is under the lockbox of many of these. It's not something that you see.
I'm going to start looking for that.
I
didn't
know,
realize that was
unless
there.
you crane your neck and see under there. But apparently there are a lot of DC ports under these lockboxes.
I'm going to start charging my gadgets from the locks on people's doors.
Well, you can actually run power through it. In fact, even if a door, for whatever reason, the battery, which is on these lockboxes, is rendered useless, this is the sort of thing that can open the lock. Now, this was written up by a report in Forbes. The reporter and Brocious had actually gone to several hotels around the New York City area. They didn't tell us which hotels, and said, of the 3 locks that they tried to open, only 1 lock actually did open, and that was after the software didn't work.
Or another way of putting it is, of the 3 locks they tried, 1 actually opened.
Right, exactly. Which, what one has to assume that they weren't actually opening just hotel rooms that people were occupying, but they were hotel rooms that were locked. But this is the sort of thing that's a little bit scary. I mean, when you stay at a hotel, you lock the door and you assume that nobody else can get in because you're the only one with that key except the hotel staff.
Now, the people in the chat room are like, well, just put a door stop or throw the bolt. We're not worried about when we're in there. You're worried when you're not in there and you got your stuff in there and you're not around.
Exactly. The way that it works is his hardware spoofs portable programming devices that hotels use for master keys. So anybody at the hotel who has this master key can get into your room. You just trust them not to. You plug this spoofer into the DC port. It provides power to open the door even if the battery has run out. And then each lock has a cryptographic key. The problem is, and this is where the vulnerability comes in, is that key is stored in the lock's memory. So Brocious has figured out how to access that key via the spoofed portable device and trick it into saying, I'm the master key, or I'm the master unlocker. And the door, not always, but sometimes opens. He was actually the chief technology officer for a startup by the name of Unified Platform Management Corporation, which is no longer in business. But while he was working there, that company was working to reverse engineer Onity. This is the company who's making these lockboxes. Onity's hotel front desk systems. They were looking to make basically a cheaper, better product. That company sold the intellectual property behind this hack, Brocious's hack, to a locksmith training company called the Locksmith Institute for $20,000 last year. Brocious says, okay, well, that's fine and good, but I'm going to release all this research in a paper as well as the source code so that other people can use the same methods that I use on my website following my talk at Black Hat tonight in Vegas. Black Hat is going on right now. It's a security conference, annual conference in Vegas. Now, some people might say, well, why wouldn't he just go straight to Onity? He says, listen, it's not because I'm trying to screw the company over. Even if they had this information, this is not like a firmware upgrade. They would actually have to go in and reinstall hardware on all of these doors. And I think it's better to have the public understand what's up and the possible vulnerabilities next time they're staying at a hotel than have a company understand that this is possible and take several years to upgrade everything.
I don't buy that.
That is the classic debate, Dana, which is it better to tell the company and not the public, or the public and not the company? Why don't you buy it?
Even based on Sarah's summary, I feel like I get the idea. I think the only people who need to know more are people who intend to crack these hotel rooms. Now I know that there's a vulnerability. I can decide how to proceed when I'm traveling. I don't really see a valid rationale for publishing instructions for mischievous people who might want to replicate this. I can see why. I can understand how the company might not be able to repair this immediately, but it would seem that something other than public concern would be motivating his need to give out these instructions publicly. It just seems like a very ego-driven, unnecessary thing to do.
That the argument against that is it's not about ego. Maybe it is, maybe it could be, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of times it's about putting pressure on the company to fix it, especially in a case where it's going to take this much cost. The company is going to want to brush it under the rug. And the fact is, if one person knows it out there, everybody can know it. So why not let everyone know it as much as possible and prepare defenses against it, poke it, prod it, figure out how to make it not happen, and put some pressure on the company to do it. You may or may not be right about the intentions of any given hacker on this stuff, but there's a philosophical debate above that about what the best way, you know, whether free and open knowledge for everyone to defend themselves is better than trying to keep things secret when it's really hard to actually keep secrets out of the bad guys' hands. If he doesn't do this presentation, that doesn't mean that all the bad guys don't know how to do it.
In fact, he has said, any intern could figure this out. I built a ridiculously simple unlocking tool. The hotels that are buying these hotel lockboxes from this manufacturer are not protected at all. They just don't know what they're doing. But even a reasonably good security hacker could figure this out.
Doesn't this just, I mean, the timing seems perfect. I mean, you got a conference, DEF CON going on in Las Vegas. They're all staying at hotels. You put this information out there. You're going to have a bunch of people testing this because it's almost like a prank. Like, I'm going to explain this thing that, oh, this is around. We knew this was around. I'm going to make this public. There's a port in everybody's hotel room that everyone's going to be messing with. I mean, there are other ways to get into hotel rooms. You can just tell the maid that that's my room and you get in. There's always some kind of way to get in. But it almost seems like it's timed perfectly when you put a bunch of hackers in a hotel room, or a hotel, that is. They will be testing this. A giant beta test, and maybe like the Sheraton or something.
Yeah. Well, Black Hat, DEF CON going on in Las Vegas. We're going to get a lot of stories similar to this and have this same debate quite a bit. Let's finish up with an accused movie pirate that's fighting back. Jeff Fentalis has filed a amended counterclaim to Malibu versus Fentalis in the U.S. District Court in Colorado. He asserts 6 claims. He was accused by Malibu in their suit of downloading a pirated porn movie. Fentalis says that by making that claim, when he has never downloaded any movie other than from Netflix, he says that in the claim. He's like, the only movies I've ever downloaded are from Netflix, which I pay a monthly fee for. He says by accusing him of downloading this movie based on a flimsy piece of evidence, which is an IP address, and he goes on to explain the problems with identifying people with IP addresses, he has suffered abuse of process, invasion of privacy, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. That intentional infliction of emotional distress depends on him explaining the entire business practice of folks who go around accusing people of copyright violations and try to shake them down for a settlement amount before they go to court. He actually, in his counterclaim, has written what is probably the best description of this process that I've ever seen. He really goes through, like, this is what the companies do. They come to you. This is how they threaten you. This is their business plan. He's uncovered business plan documents from various companies and included them. So Fentalis is asking the court to rule, in addition to the fact that he has suffered damages, and he wants several $1 million for damages, that porn movies cannot be copyrighted because they are not a useful art. And I think he's got less of a chance of winning on that one.
I don't know. Useful is such a broad,
dangerous area to wade into. And he accuses Malibu of intentionally not seeking removal of links to infringing copies. He's like, if they're really worried about this, why aren't they going to sites and sending takedown notices, which they aren't doing? Instead, he's accusing them of leaving those links up as a honeypot. To then go and try to catch people and shake them down.
Intentionally causing emotional distress.
Yeah. Iyaz, you're pondering this, I can tell.
I'm trying to think, does he have any grounds, or if this is just nonsense or not?
I don't think it's nonsense,
I know,
at least on
I went through both sides. Yeah, I don't know where he is on this line, because, I mean, emotional distress and improving that's very, very difficult. It's usually the thing you're throwing at the end. Like I was saying earlier, ask for everything you can get.
Sure.
They're probably going to throw that one out. Defamation, I guess. I mean, if you know, downloading pornography is defamatory, I guess it could be. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a stigma as much.
One of the remedies he is asking for is he wants Malibu to take a quarter-page ad in the local paper stating that they were mistaken in accusing him of this.
His name will still be up there with the porn company, and he's okay with that? That's not
guess,
the same thing. I think it's a little strange. I think this guy just wants to make a point. Simple as that. And if he can, I mean, I don't know the legal counsel of the porn company, because if they were leaving the links up, maybe they just don't have the best counsel at that point. Maybe, or I mean, either they could be dumb, or they could just be trying to do the honeypot.
The counsel in this case is a company who specializes in this sort of sending accusatory notices and threatening to go to court. So that's the business plan that I was talking about that he lays out in his filing. It's definitely worth reading the counterclaim if you want a lovely description of how this business works, of trying to get people to pay damages for copyright without going to court.
I'm also thinking about the copyright aspects of pornography. So my brain's just somewhere else right now. So
yeah, I'm not sure I want to even comment.
Let's not do
on
that.
But Dana, can you save us? Do you have any last thoughts on this before we move on?
I just wonder more philosophically if this is the internet's version of the drug war in real life. It's whether or not he was harassed or defamed. I guess it depends on the court's interpretation. And I, like Iyaz said, I can at least see a case for maybe defamation, maybe not emotional distress. But it is very interesting, especially when you point out the fact that the offending links have not been removed. So to what extent do you punish people like this guy, Jeff, who may or may not have wanted a porn movie? But to what extent do you punish him and not the people who have refused to take the links down, have made this content available? I think that's the parallels to me there are interesting. But I guess inherently I do feel a little bit sympathetic to, you know, the small guy who may or may not have downloaded something, but it's not his fault that the content was there and free for the taking.
And especially because an IP address is not a person, and judges have started to recognize that fact. I think you're seeing people willing to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to put up with this threatening behavior. When previously people would get a notice from a law firm and say, well, I don't think I did that, but I just want this to go away. So I'm willing to pay what is described in the counterclaims quoting of a business plan as a parking ticket like in fine, so that it's not so much that the people are likely to want to fight back against it. So Jeff Ventalis has said it's the principle of the thing. I'm going to fight back anyway. Very interesting. Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
A Yahoo employee has expressed by parody the feelings of the Yahoo staff by making a hope poster with Marissa Mayer's face on it.
It's all in purple, unlike the famous Barack Obama poster.
So no infringement? Is that why?
No, I don't think. I don't think
remember
that's a big deal.
when? Well, I guess it was mostly 4 years ago, where you could be like make your own Barack Obama type poster. Like I made one with my cats and said meow.
Yeah, we made one with Sawyer the dog.
So
it said fuzz first.
So I think it's fairly easy to put something like this together. Iyaz has his own.
We have
Fair
this
use.
one.
Oh, that's
when we got taken down from Mega Upload.
That's a pretty famous one right there. Yeah.
Obey.
But
you don't have permission to use that photo, by the way.
No? Okay, well then we'll just show this side of it.
I saw this this poster and I thought, I mean, I think the first time I saw it, someone said, wow, Yahoo employees are putting these up all over the cube farms. It's like, really? It sounds like one employee made it and somebody took a picture and it's kind of cool.
It's captured the essence of the story. Well, Dana, you like this story too, right?
I do, yeah. I mean, there's a cynical part of me that says, well, Marissa Mayer hasn't announced any strategy for Yahoo. She said she's just, sitting back and getting to know the company a bit better. But I think the same more sentimental side of me that, for instance, feels really bad and uncomfortable watching RIM report terrible results, feels a little bit heartened to know that maybe Yahoo employees have, they're feeling a bit better about themselves these past 2 weeks, that maybe they have a renewed sense of purpose. And I don't know, as Sarah said, if this speaks for everybody, but I'm rooting for Yahoo, so I think it's great.
I would like to know the sense of scale on this picture, because you don't have any idea. I hope this is a giant poster, but it could be like a postage stamp for all I know, because it's tiny. I mean, you can't tell by the context. But
I just noticed they have the little Yahoo logo.
Yahoo, we got purple. Yeah. It's all very positive for Yahoo, hopefully, or being hopeful. Is that
raspberry shade? I think.
I think we need a calibration.
Mayer's more of that hardcore old school purple.
Yeah.
Grape.
Bold purple.
Bold purple.
Grape purple.
Make it so.
Deep grape purple.
Raspberry purple.
Oh. She's only been on the job for a week. We'll give her some time. Let's move on to the calendar.
Okay. Zynga's reporting their earnings tomorrow, July 25th. It really is earnings week. Vizio CoStar, this is a Google TV-enabled set-top box, is up for pre-order for $100 with free shipping for a limited time through Vizio's online store. Estimated shipping date of August 14th. Telecoms regulator Ofcom will auction off some spectrum to start the launch of 4G mobile networks in the UK. This is set for the end of 2012, so at that point, operators can build 4G networks with the auction spectrum starting in mid-2013 and then hopefully start offering the services later that year. Ofcom also says that it's going to reserve some spectrum for a fourth wholesaler. So besides Everything Everywhere, Vodafone, and O2, possibly there could be a fourth player in this 4G build-out. And finally, China Times reports that Microsoft is planning to lift Windows RT licensing restrictions in January 2013 so that more OEMs can make ARM-based tablets. NVIDIA reportedly has picked Asus and Lenovo for Windows RT. Texas Instrument is going with Toshiba, Qualcomm with HP and Samsung. So, more RT for all.
Yay! RT for everyone. Yay. Also, voicemails and incoming for everyone.
Incoming message.
We got a voicemail in our 260 TNT show Google Voice inbox from a caller who says, forget you about the 19-pin dock connector.
Hey, TNT crew, this is Adam from Portland, Connecticut. Just calling in regards to the Apple dock story. Why is nobody chastising Apple for not switching to a micro USB like every other phone in the world now? And didn't the EU pass some kind of legislation that said that all phones had to use a micro USB charger from now on? Just wondering, this 19-pin new dock connector is ridiculous. They should just switch to micro USB and get it over with. Thanks for the show. Bye.
In the EU, Apple does issue this tiny dock connector to micro USB adapter. That's the way they worked around that. So it's kind of a silly workaround. But that's a really great point. Micro USB is available everywhere. I know I have a Nexus 7 or I have any phone, even the BlackBerry there. I can use anything with a micro USB. Those things are cheap. Obviously, Apple wants to make money on the dock connector accessories if you want it. But, like, why not micro USB?
Maybe the 19-pin dock connector is cheaper.
The accessories can't do the same things with the micro USB port that they can do with the 19-pin.
That's exactly what I was
port.
wondering. They probably have more capabilities with their own proprietary port than just the standard micro USB, possibly.
And that would be Apple's answer. But I'm with you, caller. I would like that. It is a standard. It should be a standard. Everybody, it's great. We have so many devices at my house that have micro USB that we only have one micro USB charger plugged into our squid under the coffee table that we can then plug in and charge almost anything we have except for the iPhone and the iPad. We have to have a separate little white connector for those devices. Everything else charges by micro USB now.
Don't you feel like you have so many things you have to charge, though, that it's nice to have a few around?
Well, I've got a bunch of plugs, but it's nice to not have to think, oh, where's the Apple one now?
The specific one that I'm looking for.
I can just use whichever one's around.
That would be nice, but that would be too easy.
Let's move on to the email. Joshua wrote in and said, hey, the Nexus 7 tablet can have expandable storage. The micro USB port features USB on the go, meaning it can act as a host to USB devices. Some people in the XDA forums have already plugged in a powered USB hub and had their USB flash drives, USB SD card reader, keyboard, and mouse hooked up to have a sort of laptop-like experience with the Nexus 7. I ordered my micro USB to female USB dongle and I'm excited to see if I can use my USB keyboard without having to have a powered hub.
Yeah, it's the limited USB on the go from what I understand, and there are ways around that. But if you just plug in flash storage directly to your OTG adapter, it's not going to work. So having a hub might be the way around that, possibly. But
very cool.
Got one more email from Vicky Poole in Memphis, Tennessee. He says, I worked for Apple Retail when the iPod went through a variety of body shapes. At the time, about 3 years ago, the manufacturers shipped dock adapters for the new devices. Most of the time, they were free to the consumer. Just come in the store and ask for one. The downside is that it takes about a month or so for the manufacturers to make the adapters. That's interesting.
I'll have to try that if this new 19-pin thing turns out to be true.
Yeah, hey, give me an adapter.
Vicky said I could ask for
about your new stupid phone.
Vicky sent me. Thanks, Vicky. Appreciate the email.
Yes.
And thank you all for watching and submitting stories in our subreddit. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is the place where you can let us know what stories you'd like us to talk about during the show. You can either submit the stories or just vote on the stories that have been submitted, or both. TechNewsToday.reddit.com. Dana Wollman, always good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us today. Let folks know, I know that you can't tell them exactly what you're working on, but what they'll find over at Engadget soon to be looking forward to.
A surprising amount of software coverage from us. Different software stories, but I mean, because we're in gadgets, so we're known for our gadget coverage, but you're going to see a surprising number of software stories from us in the coming weeks. I think that's fair to say. There
lots of Windows stuff, obviously, but more than just that, right?
Yeah. To be continued, but you'll see.
All about Tizen coming up, you know.
It's all about Tizen. Check it out at Engadget.com. Thanks, folks, for joining us. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call, leave us a voicemail. Our number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll be back with an all-new show tomorrow. See you then.